Hey everyone, John here from Little Big Adventures Ireland, back to talk to you today a little bit about getting winter ready. So if you've been out in the mountains over the last 2 to 3 weeks, you will have noticed a definite change in temperatures and a general change in the weather. So certainly on the summits, those temperatures are now starting to come down. They're coming down into those single digit figures. There's been a lot more rainfall around. And certainly as I experienced at the weekend, there was a lot more wind around. So all of those things starting to combine mean that we're now getting into winter into the mountains. That doesn't mean you've got to stop going into the mountains, but it certainly means that you've got to prepare slightly differently. So I always take September as a good time of year to do a complete equipment check and reshuffle my backpack to allow me be safer in the winter mountains. It does mean generally that I'm carrying a slightly bigger backpack during the winter months than I would be during the summer months because I'm carrying a little bit more kit and equipment. So how do we prepare for winter? Well, let's start with some of the basics. So during the summer months, you would maybe have seen me on the mountains in just a t-shirt, generally a wicking t-shirt, and it's quick drying. In the winter months, the t-shirts get put away, and I'm much more into this type of long sleeve base layer that has a high neck on it. Generally, this one has a kind of a quarter zip, just allows it to zip down. So I'm certainly going into a much heavier base layer. It's the first layer against your skin. It's a really important layer in keeping the body warm. Over that, I'm wearing something like this, a mid-weight fleece, and that mid-weight fleece again is probably going to stay on me from the start of the day, and I'm going to wear that throughout the day. So it's a really good second layer. Layering is absolutely key in the winter months. Generally in Ireland, it rarely gets cold enough for me to wear a set of leggings. On occasion, maybe in mid-January, early February, I might put on a set of leggings. However, I'm certainly going into a long pair of pants, and most of my winter pants, they'll be heavier in nature, and they will also have their own internal lining with them. So during the summer months, you would have seen me in a lightweight pair of pants. In the winter months, it's a heavier pair of pants, and it's certainly not shorts. I don't wear shorts anytime during the year because long pants make it more difficult for ticks to bite you. So purely from a safety perspective, that's why you nearly always see me all year round in long pants in the mountains. Then on top of that, in my backpack, I will have an additional warm layer. So during the summer months, I probably would have had something like this in my backpack. It's quite a lightweight synthetic jacket that's nice and handy. This will now go away for the winter, and I'm probably going to move up to a heavier warm jacket. It'll be in my backpack all day, but certainly when I stop, this is essential to just put on over me. You will basically need this when you stop, or if it starts to get very cold. So it's a slightly heavier warm jacket. It can be down or synthetic. It's a separate debate, and I might do a section on that later, the pros and cons of both, but it's very much an individual choice. And then into those very deep winter months like January, February, you might see me carry a down jacket like this. This is big and bulky, but it's phenomenally warm. Then on top of that, I will wear rain gear. I will always carry rain gear all year round in Ireland, just because of the nature of the Irish mountains. It's always raining. So not alone will I now also carry my rain jacket, but I will also now always have rain pants on me. It's your first layer, and even if it does wet through after a couple of hours, your rain gear is what is going to keep the wind chill factor away from you, and it's very effective in reducing that wind chill factor. So a lot of people will say, oh, my rain gear, I eventually got wet through it. Yes, but it also helped to keep the wind off you. So I will always have my rain jacket and or rain pants on me. Additionally, I will always wear gaiters. I wear them a lot all year round anyway, but certainly in the winter months, those gaiters just give you that extra layer of protection around the top of the boots. And they're quite good. I can do, if there's a demand, I can do a separate talk on how to wear your rain gear, because interestingly, the way that you put your rain gear on is actually one of the major factors in whether or not you stay dry. So then that's all the main core element. When we talk about extremities, so let's start with feet. During the summer months, you'll see people in trail runners, trail shoes, lighter weight boots. During the winter months, I'm moving up into a full set of leather boots. I expect the ground in Ireland to be wet, and leather just means your feet will eventually get wet, predominantly because there's a big hole in the top here that water can get into. So in Ireland, they'll always eventually get wet. Leather boots are handy because it just takes longer for the water to get through. And I guess that just might mean that you get your feet stay drier for an extra half an hour or an hour, as opposed to someone who's in a very flimsy, lightweight pair of boots. Their feet are going to get wet almost instantaneously, and they are going to have quite a long day in the mountains. Then we talk about your head. So you lose 1/3 of your body heat out through your head. During the summer months, you would have seen me wearing a baseball hat quite a lot, because sun was quite a factor. During the winter months, you're going to see me with a woolly hat on my head. Not alone will I have a woolly hat on my head, but I will also have at least one, probably two spare woolly hats inside my bag, because when your woolly hat gets wet on your head after a couple of hours, it's always nice to reach into your bag, pull out a dry woolly hat, replace the wet one with the dry one, and you're good to go. So woolly hats on the head are always really important. During the winter months, you lose 1/3 of your body heat out through the top of your head. Additionally, during the summer months, you might have seen me on occasion wearing a buff. So this buff is very much a lightweight buff and worked really well to control the sweat and the moisture. During the winter months, I'm not trying to control that sweat. I'm trying to stay warm. So I'll swap out that lightweight buff for maybe a buff, something like this. It has a fleece lining on it, and it just stays that little bit warmer. It's an extra layer. If I'm wearing the buff, I will also have probably another 2 or 3 buffs inside in my backpack, similar to woolly hat. They're nice and handy. Halfway through the day, your buff is going to get wet. Strip off the wet one, put on the dry one. You're good to go again. Then when we talk about hands, so I will always carry a pair of gloves with me all year round. During the summer months, I rarely have gloves on me, but I would definitely have always had a lightweight pair of liner gloves with me. The liner gloves during the winter months, they're simply not going to cut it when it gets properly cold. So they'll go away, and I'll probably wear something like these. These gloves are kind of a mid-weight glove. They've got their own liner built into them, and they are slightly waterproof. My experience, and I have a lot of experience in the mountains, there's no such thing as a waterproof pair of gloves. Why? Because they all have this huge hole where your hand goes in. So ultimately, water is always going to get in there at some stage during the day. So, but during the winter months, I'm certainly going for mid-weight pair of gloves. Like your woolly hat and like your buff, gloves, once wet, will just not dry out on a mountain. So I will always have probably 3 or 4 pairs of gloves with me during the winter months, because routinely on the mountains, you're always touching the soil, you're touching rock. So your hands actually come into contact quite a bit with the mountain, and they tend to get wet. So again, once your hands are wet, strip off the wet pair of gloves, put back on the dry pair of gloves. If your hands get cold and wet, it becomes a big problem in the mountains, because starting to do basic tasks like opening up your water bottle, like tying a small bit of a knot on a rope, if you can't use your hands properly, those small tasks become really difficult to do. And if you're on your own, you're now losing the ability to look after yourself. And if you're part of a team, you're now starting to become a burden on your teammates. During the deep winter months of January and February, I'll probably upscale to a pair of gloves similar to these. These are full-on winter mountaineering gloves. They're fully leather. They've completely got their own liner. They come with a secondary liner glove with them as well. In the very cold winter months, I'll carry something like these. But your hands on the mountains are really important to look after. So that is most of the kit and equipment that you're going to be wearing. You will also have a level of ancillary kit and equipment. So with regard to food, so in the winter months, your body is going to burn more calories on the mountain because it's trying to stay warm. Therefore, maybe increase the amount of food that you bring onto the mountain. Anything with a high calorie content is always good to bring onto the mountain. Your body is going to need that extra energy. With regard to fluid, a lot of people say, well, in the winter months, I can actually cut back on the amount of water or fluid I bring into the mountains. No, you can't, because fluid and water is a central part to your body's temperature regulation mechanism. So you must continue to bring fluids into the mountains. So what may happen during the winter months is you might substitute some of your water for a hot drink. I generally will bring a flask with hot chocolate into the mountains. Other people will choose various different fluids to put in a flask, but certainly I will definitely have the same amount of fluid with me in the winter months that I had in the summer months. So there's no change there. This time of year I always find is a really good time of year to check out some of your additional ancillary equipment. So my first aid kit, I always this time of year fully open out my first aid kit. We don't often do it routinely. We just pull the first aid kit out of your bag. It sits back on the shelf and you take it out the next day. This time of year is a perfect time of year. Check out your first aid kit. Check the medication. Make sure all your medication is still in date. Make sure no water has gotten into your first aid bag, and make sure everything inside in your first aid bag is still working and fully functional and can be used. If it's no longer fully functional and can't be used, you need to replace that, get it replaced, get it changed out. So this time of year, that type of ancillary equipment, like your first aid bag, check it out. Another piece of equipment that we often look at is you've got these emergency bags or survival bags. They're like an oversized fertilizer bag, but in an emergency situation, you can get into them. They'll help you stay warm and dry, and while not the most comfortable, they're a vital piece of kit. Again, I will take something like this with me all year round. I generally stuff it down the back of my backpack and it sits there. A lot of the time we don't pull this stuff out and check it, but a number of years ago on a Rec 3 course, the instructor asked us, has anyone got a survival bag with them? One of the other students pulled it out, and because he hadn't checked it in quite a number of years, he effectively pulled out a clump of dust. The whole thing disintegrated in front of him. Quite funny in a classroom situation. However, were that to happen to you on the side of a mountain, that's a completely different scenario, because the piece of kit that you're now relying on to allow you stay safe and well is no longer functional. So please check those ancillary bits of kit and equipment. And if you haven't already been doing it, I do this all year round, but inside my backpack, everything goes into dry bags. I color code my dry bags. I have a whole set of different color bags. Depending on the color, that dictates what's inside in the bag. So for me, once I open up my backpack, I look in, and depending on the color, I know what's inside in my bag. It's a very easy visual check for me. So please ensure in the winter months, everything inside in a dry bag, particularly in Ireland, we get so much rain. So winter is a little bit different to summer in the mountains, but it does not mean that you have to stop going into the mountains. You just have to be ready to go into the mountains. I have had some of the best days in the mountains during the winter months. Sunsets, they come a little bit earlier. So therefore, because sunsets come a little bit earlier, you can often have fantastic views. And on that, and I nearly forgot to talk about, during the winter months, it's really important to bring a head torch onto the mountains. So, head torches, or what we use in the mountains, we don't really use those handheld torches. These are going to sit on top of your head, and that allows you still use both your hands. When you're using a head torch, a lot of them now come with rechargeable batteries. Please ensure the battery is recharged the night beforehand. Nothing worse than pulling a head torch out of your backpack and it's not working. So please check that. And if it's a battery operated head torch, please bring a spare set of batteries with you, pack them away and make sure they're all functional. But a head torch, I will generally carry it all year round anyway, but in the winter months it is quite possible that you will be making your descent in darkness, or you might have that last half an hour. So having a head torch with you in the mountains during winter is a vital piece of kit. So be safe out there. Hopefully I'll see you on the mountains. If you have any questions, please shoot them into the comments below. I'll try and get back to you. And likewise, if anyone wants me to do another video, maybe on rain gear or the differences between synthetic and down jackets, I can do that as well. Okay, John signing off from Little Big Adventures Ireland. Be winter ready. Enjoy the winter. It's a great time in the mountains.